order, please rise. You will hear some of the sounds of the communications that go with what really goes on. First off, let me thank Chief O'Brien and the department for making this space available to us. Order September 14th regular meeting of the Staff Harbor. And for the first order of business, I have just for your information, changed the order of our business just a little bit. All the same stuff is here, it's just slightly different order. Hopefully, maybe a little speedier order than we had. I would ask for a motion for the approval of minutes under item 2.1.3. That's the meeting of August 10, 21. August 2021, August 12, 2021, and August 26, 2021.
So moved.
Is there a second? Is that better? Is that better? Oh, break into songs. I would like to begin with a report of various activities that I am directly involved in as mayor in our new format, beginning with a mayor's report to be followed by a treasurer's report and the departmental reports. Our first of our two public comment periods will follow those reports. Yes. When we're through with reports, that comments or questions that are raised are directed at that part of the agenda. And we'll have the later public session, the public comment period in the later part of the meeting, and that will be open to any and all subjects. The matters I want to report to you are, first of all, on COVID-19 and the Delta variant. We are keenly aware of challenges that are being presented by the resurgence and all the related activity. We are, I think it's in the package now tonight. The county has resumed, Suffolk County has resumed a daily briefing package that is in a format that's very easy to understand. It is at suffolkcountyny.gov. You go to latest updates, and there you will find, we reduced it to this item. And among what you will see here is you can highlight Sag Harbor Village. We are, as of September 14th, in the history of this entire story, there have been 143 confirmed cases in Sag Harbor for that period of time. And our cases per 1,000 people per capita are 65.48. 65 people out of 1,000 people with confirmed cases over this period of time. By contrast, the figure in East Hampton is 95 per 1,000, and there's a number in Brookhaven of 135 per 1,000, and Islip of 163 per 1,000. So I think, with credit to Mayor Cahey and Deputy Mayor Cardella, the village in the first stage of this pandemic, particularly with its emphasis on masking and social distancing, helped earn a very strong number reflecting good management of this problem to date. I think the challenge to us now is, as there is a resurgence, as numbers are rising again, There's a different pattern to things in that the overwhelming number of people who are being reported here and just about everywhere in the country with the disease are unvaccinated. And I just offer a personal opinion as chair that I now hold, that I wish everybody in town would be vaccinated. I understand it's a complicated question, complicated by other values, all the rest, but the science to me seems clear. And so we will continue as your village government to put emphasis on trying to encourage and assist where necessary people being able to get vaccinated. I and my family have recently qualified for the third booster, and we went right down to do it. And I would encourage people that science tells you you're in better shape to do it. We will be happy to help anybody who wants to be receiving these regularly online. Be sure that you have the proper information on how to do it. We will come back to a question that's been raised about whether we can safely come back to public meetings like this. And it is my hope that we could, and we're trying this out. I understand neighboring communities have taken somewhat different approach. I have a good letter from Sag Harbor that has offered to perhaps assist us financially with the cost of developing a hybrid system for meetings. I don't know about the communities that have LTV and some of these other resources in place. We don't. So hybrid and some of these devices that people talk about are available, but not without expense. So I appreciate Sag Harbor offering to participate with us as we examine those. I'm pleased that of our colleagues, Aiden Borish is the most deeply schooled in these matters. And so he has volunteered to lead our effort to examine what our options are as we get into the fall, and to see what we can do to extend, and we certainly want to include as many people in our public process as we can, subject to getting a good system and not breaking the bank.
Exactly. So we'll start investigating that. We'll report at next meeting sooner rather than later, so we can get a good hybrid system up. And I believe there's going to be some legislation this year or early next year that will compel us to do it. So we'll try and get ahead of that, so that we can have meaningful meetings.
And we should be prepared to say to Albany when they issue mandates that they send money.
Yes, exactly. That we can
Feel free
see what
to
grants
send
are
some
out.
money.
I think that Albany, the state governments also realize that there are advantages to electronic media, opposed to just the health part, which is obvious. For instance, at Zoom, it's actually easier to hear it, for example. But that's, I think that generally speaking, that's being recognized.
Thank you, Ed. I want to review some of the work that's gone on in the 9 weeks since I took this chair. First of all, in the appointments that I was able to make, just to report that our youngest member, our most junior member, has stepped into a number of roles, including the initiative of the Sag Harbor Affordable Housing Initiative, and I'm very grateful for that. That's an important issue, and was the lead appointment I was able to make to this seat, and I'm very glad for the work that he is doing. The other appointments we've made are Jean Kane to the ARB. I will tell you that Jean visited every live application within 2 days of taking her seat, and is a very hardworking chair and model of how this volunteer government can work well. And Val Florio, who stepped up, a member of the ARB, who took the chair of ZBA. So those are 2 very strong appointments, and the work of those 2 committees, those boards, is well in hand. Kay Lawson back at the Planning Board, a measure of a couple of things, including the moratorium. They haven't had an awful lot of business there the last couple of months, but we expect that to change as we matter of fall. The Harbor Committee continues to be chaired by Mary Ann Eddy, another very hardworking chair. And of course, our village attorney, who took a full-time appointment with us and has now stepped up to, and we will, I guess, have paperwork on this tonight. Denise Shern has retired as the counsel to the planning board, and Liz has stepped up and will be adding that to the duties as a full-fledged, multitasking counsel to the village, which we're very grateful for. In Village Hall, we start with the complicated news of the retirement of our longtime clerk administrator, Beth Hamper, who less than a week from now, or 10 days, will be actually retiring. And very graciously, at the time of the election, agreed to stay through the summer months to time her retirement to the fall. And sadly, that number has come around. She's forbidden us from making too big a production out of her departure. And so all I want to say here tonight is this village owes you an enormous debt of gratitude. I think very few people who are not directly engaged in village government understand how much work goes on in that building. We have a resolution on here forbidding you from changing your phone numbers. We wish you all good luck. Thanks. One of the great gifts Beth provided to us is in her gift for bringing in younger people who have worked very, very hard, grown in their jobs. And I always favor the idea of promoting within when it's possible. And we nevertheless, through a wide net, advertised in all the right places. We had some interesting candidates. Geography is a big factor for us. Sometimes you know the place, a long journey, you know the place for the first time. The talent for us going forward was in the building. And I'm pleased tonight to nominate a new team to be led by Kate Wills, until recently Kate Wills, now Kate Wills Casio as clerk administrator, Connie McGrath as a associate administrator, and continuing in another title. Titles in civil service get tricky, but it will be in continuing titles also of office assistant. Wendy Parent, our very seasoned deputy clerk, who is planning retirement later this year or next year. So she will continue in the role of deputy clerk. I'm pleased to report. Christina Polinko, who's just crossed over 5 years with us, will be in an elevated role of senior office manager and administrator for this team. So when I look at the three team members that we're appointing tonight and reappointing, extending Debbie Parent, you've left a real legacy and the talent that's come forward. And I think at the appropriate point in the agenda, I make the nomination. It's in the resolution. So the book, what do we do with that?
We can move to have those advance as resolutions, but you should vote on the resolution.
So,
that one, it's up to you.
Well, let me pause another moment to finish talking about what these appointments have been. 3 weeks ago, we were joined by Chris Talbot, a longtime senior building inspector and department head, and he has joined us and stepped into our building department. We have suffered all the strains in many places of the volume of work that has grown in this crazy market that we are living in. And so we welcomed him on board 3 weeks ago. And he was a terrific young man. He's sitting there in the back, but I'll get him out to you for those who don't know. Our new building inspector. And of course, that includes directing the building department as well as directing the review of applications and direct service to the ARB and the ZBA and the expert portfolio that we have. Also here tonight, you'll hear making his reports to Mullen, who is our treasurer and a terrific young man, and is streamlined and improving our entire financial management. The other appointments, of course, Dee Yardley in the continuing role is our chief cook and bottle washer of pretty much the entire village, public works and the highway department, and the snow department, the sand department, and the white striping department, and all the things that he does. And appointing an assistant superintendent of public works in the person of Mike Cohen. Mike has been with the village quite some time now, and was the number 2, and we're recognizing that with this appointment to this title as assistant superintendent of public works. And that will be by resolution here in a moment. And of course, remind ourselves that Bob Worry does amazing work as the Commodore of the flotilla at Santa Harbor, and just brought us through a weekend. With a lot of boating activity, a lot of waterfront activity that went off without a catch. And finally, all of the public service departments, chiefs, Tom Gardella as deputy mayor serves as the liaison, not the police commissioner, but liaison to all the public safety. So as your new mayor, I feel this is a very strong team. All the bases are covered. We've got the advantage of bringing in some new younger talent to move up the chains of command. And I would make the motion to by resolution, I don't have it in front of me, but to nominate Kate Mills Lacazio as clerk administrator, Wendy Parent as deputy clerk, Connie McGrath as associate administrator, office assistant, Christina Palenko as senior office manager, Chris Talbot, we've already appointed, and Michael Cohen as assistant superintendent of public works. And someone will tell me if I missed anybody that requires the formal action. So that is the nomination. Is there a second? Second. Is there any discussion on any of these appointments? Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The appointments are agreed to, and I want to stand up and welcome you and thank you. Let's hear it. That's me. There's Christy. I don't know if so that's the 18th. Quick report on other matters. The work on the waterfront overlay and zoning code continues, and hope to have the whole business finished between October and November. And we're working from draft number 8, which is the subject of a continuing public hearing. And so tonight, if there's anyone who wants to hear on that subject, there will be at that place in meeting. The housing initiative led by Bob Plum and Ed Hay is underway still, I would say, at the point of gathering from colleagues like Greg Farrars and the Housing Trust. We've met with the Housing Partnership. We've begun to hear from people who want to propose projects in the village. And we're learning a lot from who comes forward and what kinds of proposals they have. I don't know if Bob or Ed, you want to hear?
Well, essentially just rounding up names. We're gonna get, I think we have 5 people besides Ed and I who want to be on a committee that people experience and raise faces of affordable housing. A lot of work's been done already. I mean, the one issue is that the village per se, like parking, there's not a lot of room for big numbers, but everything counts. And so we're looking at the town of East Hampton has an affordable housing office, so does Southampton. We have some properties that are contiguous, so we're just starting to delve into that, try to make them real. Question, my question is like, how many apartments do we need, to make a dent? And obviously that's can't really answer that. But you do have to, I think the best thing to do is just chip away at it. And maybe a 40-unit something here, and just improve. I was reminded though that accessory apartments are legal currently in the village, and there's an application process which we were talking about, trying to streamline, maybe even subsidize to some extent, so that people will have an easier time with that. But that is currently on the books. Any of these kinds of things that we want to do, we can make as a resolution without getting involved with the state and everybody else, are great because they're much simpler to anyway, we just started getting the ball hearing from people.
But part of that is we're receiving proposals and requests for meetings that have taken place last month, will take place this month and next month with different landowners, developers who are interested in building affordable housing in the village, on the outskirts of the village. And so it's very encouraging to hear how many people have come forward already to request meetings with us to brainstorm on how to best approach this, what the best ways to go about it is, and what we can do to help them, encourage them to continue those efforts.
Moving along, Steinbeck Park, down the waterfront, tree planting has begun along the western fence. Very substantial, 25 to 29 foot trees. There'll be 3 courses of vegetation, high, medium, and then lower. I'm happy to report that this is being paid for per agreement, 100% by the building owners, developers on that project. Ed Hollander, our pro bono star landscaper, is overseeing that work. There is a gap you will see leaving access for one bit of work that has to occur on that one building. So the trees are not in place yet. They would interfere with that work. They will follow on. And along with everybody else, we need for it to grow nice and high. But they're making a very good start. And it helps define what that vista will look like going into the future. You'll also begin to see delivery of soils and other materials. The hope is this fall to begin the planning, design, and ultimate installation of what we've been calling the walkway. The linkage, the path to link the Long Wharf, Windmill Beach, and Steinbeck Park. And ultimately, when the park is fully completed, to continue out to Long Island Avenue, connect up to the rest of the walking opportunity to go west on Long Island Avenue, along West Fourth Street. So it's a nice time of year, and it's nice to see finally that we're able to actually get some of these chores underway. It's been a long time coming. We made a decision in this board to do this, to seek this park 6 years ago in August. It took 4 years to get it, and it's taken us these last couple of years to get these next steps. So I'm excited by that. Again, for what it might ultimately look like. I wrote down this as a topic, downtown real estate. There's a lot going on. The big news breaking this very day is the sale of two to Main Street. Is a possibility. We have not seen documents. In Village Hall, we don't see the documents for quite some time after the transaction, when taxes, deeds, and other. But it has been confirmed to us that there has been a transaction on that property. It has also been confirmed to us that the very next day or two, the owner of the property, which is listed as 2 Main LLC, has applied to the town of Southampton Community Preservation Fund as a willing seller to offer that property via CPF to the town for an expansion of Steinbeck Park and ultimately change in the hands of the village, just as the first phase of the park happened. So that's what we call television breaking news, and we'll learn more as we go forward. I was pleased to see that the CPF application followed literally immediately upon completion of that transaction. More to come. Just a quick word about National Grid. It's been publicly reported. I make no secret of it. I'm asking National Grid to rescind its earlier award of the National Grid line to Friends of Bay Street and to return it to the lease that we are operating still under with the company, where the municipal government operates it as a public parking. I would say to anybody involved in civic life or interested in the outcome there, feel free to write to National Grid. Tell them you'd like to see that property stay in the hands of the village. It is vital parking, particularly for the people who live and work on Main Street. A lot of the younger people who live over the stores, work in the shops, or go to work from there. That's their overnight parking. So any words of support, some of the feel is supporting the effort to get it back, and I'm hoping some public word will help that happen. That completes my report, my mayor's report, and we'll call next on our treasurer, Tim Bullock, for the treasurer's report. I'm guessing we have.
Okay. Not yet.
Speak.
All right. So for our revenues and our expenditures as of July 31st, we have additional revenues over the prior year, mostly in the docks and also the building department. Hopefully, with the building department, it's a resolution happening, and hopefully there will be additional increase as well. And we have a slight increase in other revenue within the justice court and sewer revenue slightly up as well. And we also got in some federal funds regarding COVID, the ARPA fund. We received half of that payment as well to use for our COVID expenses in the past year and a half. And then for expenses, we have additional expenses through the PPA for salaries as well as related expenses for the upgrade of the building at Village Hall and as well as the building department vehicle. And then for we also have the revenue for the parking meter. We did see a great increase with that over the past 2 months for this year.
And why jump in here for this?
Parking, I don't have anything formal, but to say that we've continued generating revenue. Last I checked, we had about 10,000 transactions. I've been looking at some zip codes to see where these transactions are coming from. About when I last checked, 3,000 or 6,000 people had attached a zip code to their transaction. And out of all of those, there were 192 11963 zip codes. So considering the village is about 1/3 of the 11963 area, we have about 2,000 people, 2,300 here, and about 6,000 not in the entire zip code. Very few people in the village are paying parking, which is great. So all of this revenue is coming from Connecticut, New York, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Virginia, DC. So in October, I'll put together a big report that we can go through and get some data up on the screen, so we can see who's parking, how much they're paying, and if we were to tweak the rates a little bit, what that might mean for revenue next year. So I look forward to doing that. It's been very interesting to see this visit. How long they've been parking.
Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you. Would there be a motion to accept the treasurer's report?
I'll make a motion.
A second.
I'll second.
All those in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion is agreed to. They had on as liaisons to departments and make the first report on public works. The department is preparing some roads in the village for paving. They are particularly Howard Street, Bayview Avenue, Meadowbrook Lane, and West Henry Street to be completed by early October. All the regular work of the department goes on, sand, debris removal, all the stop lines in the village have been repainted. Patching of all roads continues as needed. We survived a lot of active weather and a whole lot of water very, very well. There were only 2 trees that came down and required the department's immediate attention. A lot of small branches, routine stuff. There was some flooding, but nothing like one would think with a 3-inch concentrated rainfall that reached as high as 7 inches in the city. So it was bit of luck, I think, that this thing went out to sea when it did. A project that you hear from people a lot about Havens Beach, but if you haven't been down there lately, the sifting went on both at Havens and at Windmill, and net improvement of the attractiveness of sand was noticeable. And so special thanks. We've got this beat up old sifter, and it works rather well with our guys. And so the department did a nice job in freshening up the beaches. The waterfront was extremely busy in the month of August, as everybody observed. There were a few incidents here and there, but nothing of any significant magnitude. We are finishing the season, this is fall week now, with our usual end of season, but with the numbers in very good shape. The income is up again. And in these last few weeks, Bob and the gang have worked with shortage we have every year, where we have it on the beaches, and we have it in the harbor department when our young harbor masters, lifeguards, attendants go back to school. And so we made one hire to help fill in, but the work is very short-handed. But a figure year to date, which is really quite remarkable. On this day, a year ago, our total waterfront income, gross income, was $895,000. On this same date this year, it was $1,216,000. So keep on coming, folks. We have fine restaurants, great waterfront. If anybody doubts that the waterfront is common, just look at this. It is the story of this village historically, and right now economically, a very important part of the picture. The Justice Court report is a typical, not long ago, but the last couple of years, the activity of the court is inching back up. And the revenues associated with that are inching back up. The court operates under very difficult physical conditions, sharing part of the building as they do with us. They do it in good spirit, and the figure to date is gross numbers about $415,000 for a calendar month. But we thank the court for their endless patience and good cheer with dealing with angry people. That will finish my report and turn next to the deputy mayor for the public safety report.
Thank you, Mayor. So the monthly report for August 2021 from the Sag Harbor Village Police Department is that the police responded to 722 calls for service this past month. They wrote 1,986 parking tickets we issued. There were 2 aggravated unlicensed operations, 2 suspended registrations, 1 unauthorized use of a motor vehicle, 2 village code violations, 1 harassment call, and 1 bench warrant. There were 29 motor vehicle accidents. There were 9 arrests, 3 DWI arrests, and 36 uniform traffic tickets were issued. Chief McGuire had a manpower study done to see what the overall impact would be, and we're waiting to get that official report, but the initial results are that they're recommending that we hire at least 3 more full-time police officers because of the population that has exploded. I mean, you could just see from the traffic recordings that the chief has put in town, those signs that show the speed that you're going. They're also registering the cars that are going by. I believe that in 1 week we recorded on 114 100,000 cars that's traveling into and out of the village. So we are with the police. Chief McCoy couldn't be here tonight. He was busy on a call, domestic call that we had for service in the village. As far as the fire department goes, in the month of August 2021, the fire department volunteered for over 2,116 man hours. During the month, officers and members of the department responded to 72 calls for service. These calls included 2 structure fires, 3 carbon monoxide incidents, 1 boat fire, 1 mutual aid to Bridgehampton, and 1 mutual aid to Southampton. As the summer season comes to an end, the Sag Harbor Fire Department would like to thank the community for practicing fire safety and their continued support. We would like to remind everyone that school is back in session, so be mindful when driving and always stop for a school bus when the lights are flashing. The other thing I'd like to bring up about the fire department is one of the 2 big concerns of fire has always been Main Street and something that could develop within the docks or within the marina because of the close proximity of all the big yachts. And for a couple of years now, we've been proposing that a fireboat be part of the fleet that's actually set up to fight a fire should it occur on the marina. And part of those capabilities would be an EMS capability inside the boat. Chief O'Brien, are you here? You want to get up and speak a little bit about the boat?
Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
So my name is Kevin O'Brien Jr. I'm the chief of the fire department here in Sag Harbor. Over the last couple of years, the incidents on the waterfront and then the waters in the bay have been increasing. We've had boats crash with trauma that we've had to deal with. On August 26th of this past month, we had a boat fire that we were called to. Upon the arrival of the harbor master and the chief of police, they discovered that the boat had been subject to an explosion. So these things are becoming more and more frequent. I was receiving phone calls about someone thought a house in North Haven was on fire. Turned out a boat in the Shelter Island Harbor was on fire. They produced so much smoke and heat that people in the village thought that North Haven had an issue. The boats that are coming in here, I don't know if we can call them boats anymore. They are mega yachts. They contain an incredible amount of fuel on them. Right now, we have 2 dive boats with what are called trash pumps. They can put out about 250 gallons a minute, which is 1 hose line. What we're looking to get would be a certified ambulance firefighting boat that has big dive capabilities instead of a dive boat that we are jimmying into something that can fight fires. I spoke with the Coast Guard recently, Hampton Bays and Montauk. They have about the same firefighting capabilities we do. So if we call them for help, they're not going to be able to do much more than we can. We need a boat that can be more like a fire engine. That's 1,500 gallons a minute at a minimum. So that's 6 times more water flow. As you had said, the marinas or waterfront, there are the economy. They're pretty much always happening here in Second. We need to be able to protect them. We're at a severe disadvantage right now. Do so. Look forward to working with you to get that done. I have spoken with the harbor master about this. And he's fully in support and agrees. He can speak on it himself. If you like. Bob, you want to add anything to that?
I agree 100%. It's one of our biggest concerns, lack of fire. What do we have? We think about the yachts. Got fire, we have, mostly yachts, we have, we have fire support, gallons. So that being said, like, look around, they would, there's a lot of marines that have had these as 2 years. And it's just a concern. I mean, we have millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of boats in our harbor and really minimal at best. And the fire support. So, something that's quite fun.
I would imagine that fire can move from one boat to another very quickly. That is that close.
Yeah, at the marina, how close together these boats are moored or docked?
I believe it was Patch Off 2 years ago, had about 13, 14 boats in a row go up in there.
Yeah, it's a really serious issue, and I would support whatever we can do to make this happen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. I would say this maritime community, this is an essential tool. And inevitably, fires choose their own location. And the one phenomenon in a tightly packed marina, but downtown side, is one sort of challenge. Boats out on moorings, boats in accidents, there's no truck that reaches them. So the case for this is made, as far as I'm concerned. We have to do is, these are not cheap. So we need to start putting this in our capital planning and able to work on grants. There was 9/11 reminded me there was a lot of money around for all kinds of safety immediately following 9/11, including harbor boats of one kind or another.
Homeland Security would be a good place to start.
The fireboats, I think it's an essential matter for us. Thank you.
Can they also be used for fighting waterfront property fire?
That's what I was just gonna bring that up, something like, yeah, absolutely.
So they have to use, you could dispatch them to the coves and be able to. Do you pump salt water through them or do you have to?
Yeah, that's what they do.
That's what they do. So you have an endless supply of water in remote areas.
Correct.
Where we keep our current boat would work.
And kind of stay in the water all year, is it something that has to be?
We normally do take it out for 2 or 3 months, but I believe it would be able to stay in. Like, we have the bubbler system or anything like that down there. Might be able to make that work.
Probably leave it in as long as that fire pump is drained down, staying right until we get a.
Gotcha.
Heavy breeze.
And
Yeah.
marina we work with, they can pull the boat out, put it right back in for us. During
Okay.
hurricane, we had our boats taken out, but they left them on the ends that if we needed them, they could just came, drop it right back in for us.
The other thing, I just want to go back to the police report. You know, we do get the emails. I've gotten emails about complaints about speeding and traffic and, you know, AJ's collected a lot of data on this. And also with the manpower study, you know, we don't want people speeding through our village. It's happening at an alarming rate. The police are trying to keep up with it as much as they can. But the fact of the matter is we need more troops. We need more people out there that can enforce the law and start writing tickets to get people to slow down. So I see it all the time, all of us. We live in the village, so.
It's like on 114, do we have a blanket 20-mile-an-hour speed limit in the village or do we have? And if we don't, should we find out something we don't consider?
Within areas of the village, it is 20 miles an hour, but there's certain state roads that the speed limit has gone up to 30 miles an hour, 40 miles an hour. But still, you have people going 60 miles an hour through a 30, 40 mile an hour zone. So
The village police ticket on 114 on State Road.
they can, as long as it's within the village limits. Once you go outside of that, then it's up to East Hampton Town or South Hampton Town.
Could we petition the state, maybe talk to Fred Deal and see if we could, if the village had an entire blanket 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, every street regardless of whose jurisdiction it was.
We could, but we'd have to show justification for it. Obviously, that's why AJ is collecting all this data. So we have tools to make these arguments.
It's a very regular complaint that I get.
I just want to make everybody aware that we're focusing on this. It's not something that we're just, you know, pushing to the side. It's a serious issue and it needs to be addressed. So that'll bring me to the ambulance court. So in the month of August 2021, we were called for emergency calls, 102 calls for the month, compared to 80 calls from 2020. We had 5 work nights, 1 meeting, 3 training sessions, 2 work details, for a total man hours of 1,204 man hours for the month. At the current pace that we're at, we've done 40 more emergency calls than we did last year at the time. So last year was a busy year, and now we're surpassing that. So the ambulance has been very busy as the population has grown. The summer times, we're getting a lot more calls. As far as COVID goes, we see some of the numbers, you know, we're still more aware that the numbers are going up slightly. I wouldn't say they're going up severely, but there is the concern out there. We're still keeping up with the protocols as far as if COVID is suspected, we have that disinfectant machine that we use to disinfect the ambulances. Everybody's been wearing their masks. I think pretty much the whole corps has been vaccinated. The only thing I will say about the vaccinations is consult with your physician. My position is, as a politician, I'm not going to go out there and tell you what to do either way, get a vaccine or not. I'm not a medical professional. I'm an emergency medical technician. I would say to every adult out there, go to your physician. If I have a legal issue, I go to my lawyer. So this is a medical issue, consult with your doctor. Because I do know in certain cases where people have gotten vaccinated and then found out that they had an immune deficiency that didn't make the vaccine as potent as they thought it was. And they contracted COVID. So before you do anything, I would say sit down and speak to your position. So that's the end of my reports.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you,
For
Mayor.
the sewer department and village grants.
Thank you. I'll start with the sewer department. The report for August 21. Total gallons received in the month was 3.02 million gallons. Total gallons of sludge removed was 63,000. DMR reports were forwarded on 9/13. And Suffolk County DHS inspection date, the next inspection will be 10/25/21. And as always, the DEC, New York State DEC inspection date is open. We received no complaints for the month of August. And the summary of operations, wastewater treatment plant is running well under all permitted levels. We are now operating 4 basins. We have 5 basins down there. Each one can handle 50,000 gallons. We have 4 running. And we will see that decrease as we move into the fall. We had fluid imaging had to replace a monitor for one of the computers, and we had a motor alarm for a power surge. Eagle Control came out to calibrate a flow meter and to look at basin number 2 dissolved oxygen levels. Flow increase from July to August was approximately 97,000 gallons as the summer picked up. We had a big drop off. I was down with G in the plant this week. And there was a drop off right after Labor Day. I went down, dropped by 50,000 gallons a day, which was indicative of the level of activity on Main Street dropping off a little bit. I know everyone's always wondering who's staying and who's going home at the end of the summer. But this is one indicator. Who knows? It might be back. It might be back up again. We also had delivery some time ago. We invested in an upgrade of our panels. There's some equipment down there that goes back to the 70s and 80s. Some of this equipment has to be handmade. So we've got some new technology that will make the operation of the plant easier. The equipment was delivered. It is yet to be installed. It's basically a control panel, so I'll keep you abreast of that. And I think there will be an ability to be able to monitor the plant more remotely. Right now, alarms go off, and all of the plant employees down there, and everybody else will be on call, and they have to go down in the middle of the night to silence the alarm and just make sure that everything is in good order. So that will be helpful as we do that, make those improvements. Moving on to grants, I have nothing really new to report other than we do have a resolution tonight, which is grant related. We, as you know, are working on this expansion of the service areas, the sewage treatment plant, Area L and Area K. Area L, town of East Hampton, Area K is in Southampton. We have an agreement. We had a grant award from East Hampton for just about $280,000 to do all the design and engineering to connect a number of homes on the east side of the village. And now tonight we have a resolution to sign the engineering contract to get that work done. Once that's complete, the next step will be go to bid. The size of Area L may change slightly as the engineering work progresses. But we'll have more information on that over the next month. This is going to take 6-9 months to execute. But as we develop, we'll have more information for all the homeowners within that area. I also understand that from the Southampton CPF, we have an award. CPF have awarded us $390,000 for similar work on the Southampton side. That is yet to be approved by the town board, but we're expecting that shortly, so fingers crossed. So the work on that side, on the Southampton side of the town in Area K, which is basically Rose Street, like that whole area to the west of Main Street, the very low line, can continue. So that concludes my reports for this evening. Thank you.
And finally, Ed, anything further to add?
Just on Nash Park. So this weekend, I think Nash Park had a 5K run, walk, jog, like was a resounding success. And they cleared and opened up the trails for the woods. And the park is responsible for, on the other side of town, it's about 60 acres we put in the park. And as somebody who has lived here for over 50 years, I've never seen some of those trails in the woods. So I would just encourage people to explore them too. They cleared them, they've got machines that clear them now. And it's really a tremendous asset on the other side of the park on the other side of town.
Are they accessed through the park?
Yes, they are. And the park is in fantastic shape. The other thing to report is that the park and the school are beginning their long-term negotiations. The hope is to, and the expectation is that we'll negotiate a long-term sustainable relationship between the park and the school for financial investment to upgrade a lot of facilities in the park, the fields, as well as buildings and bathrooms, et cetera. And so that planning work is underway, and the two committees will start meeting weekly beginning tomorrow. And I think that the park and the school, both of those committees will give regular updates to the community as those meetings progress. The expectation is to have much of the work completed before the end of this year, the negotiations, at least in planning, for work to be done at the park and the school for next year through.
Great. I would just add a note, Diane Scaloni and Nancy Benvin, which I have pronounced it, have been leading a volunteer effort to raise $50,000 for a new the renewal of the grandstand, and I think they just hit around 40,000. So, and on most Saturday mornings, you'll find Diane Scaloni and Nancy at their table in front of Scaloni's. So if you have change as you come out of there, feel free just toss it in the pot. But there's been a real response to that, and it's a nice civic gesture, and it's very timely in terms of condition of the grandstand, which has been there for a very long time. I think that concludes our departmental reports. A motion to accept the departmental reports.
So moved.
Hayden, is there a second? Bob, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The reports are agreed to. We now come to the first public comment period, 15-minute session, limited to 3 minutes per speaker, and concerning the mayor's report, treasurer's report, or any of the departmental reports. Yes, ma'am.
I'm here to pass a message from Nada Barry, who is not here. Unfortunately, she had a fall, but she's going to be okay. But she wanted to thank you personally for opening up the bathroom. And she wanted to request that you put it as a line item on the budget.
Well, thank you for that, and I'll give officially our best to Nada. She's indestructible. So
Well, she is. She's going to be okay.
Right.
She did have a bad day.
That's good. We should point out that we made that agreement with the chamber, and we split it basically 50-50, which I thought was a very fair way forward. And the response has been very good. People behave themselves. We've had a good team of personnel who have overseen that. So it's good to know something works. Other comment on any of the reports? Yes, sir. If you would, please. For the record, you have to tell us.
Oh, I'm Nancy Achenbach.
Nancy Achenbach, who needs no introduction. Sir.
Stephen Leffler, 68 Whitney Road, Sag Harbor. First of all, I just want to comment about the purchase of number 2 West Water Street and the fact that that the preservation committee is going to purchase it. I was curious to know if there was a way to piggyback on that to get for them also to do the demolition and debris removal of the structure. Is there some way that the village can request that as part of, as part of the whole project of them taking ownership of?
Well, to my understanding, when we did first chapter, the CPF applicant is required to deliver a cleared property. It's not, CPF grant does not cover the cost of demolition. In the case of 135 Ferry Road, which is required, demolition and seeding and all of the cleaning up was done entirely by volunteers and adults. So we made it into a civic campaign. And Steve and Ms. Nicky and his demolition firm took the buildings, landscapers, the irrigation company, everybody did a part. So I don't think CPF involves itself in that matter, except to require that an applicant, in this case, the 2 Main Street LLC, would have the obligation to deliver it here. But as the interested ultimate beneficiary of the CPF grant, I would certainly interface with them and try to find.
I wasn't aware that they had a delivery.
Yeah, it's in the
They'll negotiate it in the contract as well, but they typically do.
Okay. With reference to the National Grid parking lot, you had mentioned that you'd written a letter to National Grid.
right.
And suggested that perhaps there'd be other people that write similar letters. If it would be possible for that letter that you wrote to be published on the website so that we have, the information of where to send that, or,
I'm not sure.
somehow other than, we have a person to get to write the.
Okay, we'll do it right away.
Okay.
It's straightforward and has all the right address.
With reference to the 114 park speed limit, I had reason to contact the superintendent at the New York State Department of Transportation not too long ago, and he instructed me that the minimum speed limit on a state road is 25.
And that would be an improvement.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the village is 20, I'll take that. Absolutely. All right, thank you for that.
I did inquire about a school, so I just remembered, because at a previous meeting, someone had brought up that it should be 20 miles an hour, so I suggested that to the man with whom I spoke, and he said that the minimum that the New York State has is 20.
But the school districts zones are an exception.
Right.
They're separately signed, and I believe it's.
And that's what the school is.
Yeah.
With reference to the affordable housing issue, I'm just curious to know, because you mentioned, Mr. Plum, that there were, you're looking at places with 40+ units. And one of the things that I found has been a problem with, well, let me put it this way. I'm not quite sure whether or not the Department of Health Services would issue a waiver for their gallon density discharge that they have, which is substantial for residential property. So, I mean, a 40, depending on the size of the parcel, it would have to be rather large in order to accommodate their minimum requirement of the discharge. So I'm not sure if they would grant a waiver because it's minimum.
I've never heard the health department waiver.
Well, it was just something because when you mentioned the 40 units, I'm thinking of what size parcel you may have.
Well, my point was that it needs to be something substantial, and your point, you can't do it on a regular, it's gotta be. Make it effective.
Unless you do it in the village, you tie it to the village shore.
Right, that's it. Okay, that was all for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers? That concludes the public comment period. We will now go to the introduction. Local law amended chapter 265 vehicle and traffic for a pair of stop signs at Harrison Street intersection with Madison Street. Now, this was passed right to this stage at our last. So this now opens.
This will set the public hearing for October, right, Bob?
So is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Item 7.1.
I'll make a motion.
It's just a stop intersection at Harrison Street.
Yeah. the Harrison-
No, Madison.
Sorry, I
Madison.
added Madison Street.
Okay.
I'll second that.
What's happening is that, with this meeting, and the traffic, they're coming down Madison Street, Egg Road, so to speak. And that's just another point for us to kind of slow it down.
I live right along there, it's no secret. And 2 or 3 years ago, a stop sign was added in Marsden, which had provided some improvement. But that drag race when they flying down the hill
Yeah.
at Harrison and Graham are both turnout streets for the school buses. So it's terrifying to see some of that traffic in school hours. Buses, whether they're full or just heading out, have to get well out into the intersection given the foliage. So I think this is. So this opens the, formally opens the introduction and sets the public hearing for 30 days.
October 12th, correct.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Now, in other public hearing matters, number 8.1 is amending the, this is a somewhat esoteric matter, but relating to the current monetary standards set forth in General Law 103 as they affect our procurement policy. And we are, did we open this already?
This is to open the public hearing
This
for
is to
tonight and hear from the public, and it's basically a housekeeping matter to bring current money standards set forth in our codes to match general municipal law, so that they're all concurrent.
Last meeting, we opened the public hearing, we set it for tonight.
Right.
And this is opening. it
This
now.
is actually having the public hearing, so we're gonna open it for public.
Is there anybody smart enough to know? what Jim, no. So, motion. Second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
The public hearing is open. Does anyone care to be heard? Hearing none. Is there a motion to close the public hearing? Second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Hearing is closed. Motion then on the law. Is there a motion
I move that to adopt.
to adopt? Is there a second? Comment? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The local law is adopted. Thank you. Open now a continued public hearing. This is the continuing public hearing process that we've had for the last few months concerning the waterfront overlay district. Work continues on the current draft, which was introduced June 2001. And the public hearing, the motion here is to open. I need a
You don't need a motion
It's
to open,
open.
it's been carried open, yeah, it's already open, it was adjourned from the last.
This is a continuation of that public hearing. And is there anyone who wants to be heard on this matter?
Sorry.
Yes.
I'm just curious what's happening with it in terms of how you're expanding it or what's happening with it.
The best term I can use to describe is, you hear the term markup in Albany and Washington. What we have before us is the draft that's submitted by the working committee in June. This hearing process is open. We are at work, don't call, in examining that draft. I could most of that myself, consulting widely, and people who are involved at the beginning, others, great number of people, and we're working toward a refinement of the existing draft, which I hope to bring forward either October or November.
And is that still in existence? The original committee that was dealing with this, or?
Well, that was an informal committee, so yes, it's still in existence.
It is.
That's not a formal.
Okay, so we'll just wait.
Thank you. For the record, that is release. No further comment, we simply
Just adjourn, move to adjourn to the next meeting.
A motion to adjourn the hearing to the next meeting.
Will we have more specifics at that time?
I hope so. Sorry to say.
I'll second.
All those in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So we move on now to item 10, action items. The first is a request from Superintendent Yardley for Sean Noble to attend the following courses in Manor, Morrisville, New York, related to wastewater treatment, training and operations. One in December, both in December. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
No, it's just a great thing that we're getting more. First step is getting another operator.
Raising
Raising the skill level, exactly. I'm really happy that John's taking this on. None of this stuff is easy, especially when you're at school for a long time. It's some serious work.
Thank you. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Matter is agreed to. Number 2, resolution for Verizon Wireless to install a replacement temporary facility. This relates to the famous cow, cellular on wheels. And this was brought in under emergency circumstances one extension ago. So I guess it's a year now. And what has happened is the device was removed by Verizon in order to service the U.S. tennis tournament in August. And then it was the rationale for the removal was converted to, it was removed because of the storm. And I'll be very frank about this. My recollection of the placement of this temporary vehicle and facility, which I supported at the time, was to enhance our ability to deal with emergency communications. So when they changed the rationale from the tennis tournament to the onset of the storm, I would have thought the facility brought in to give us extra capacity during the storm without being removed in advance of the storm. So it's not a completely clear scenario. And we learned this week that the device they intend to bring back is a different one than we originally authorized. So I would ask my colleagues to put this over while we get a fuller picture of what is what in terms of what they propose to bring in now, for how long and so forth. But I see it as it's a different device and therefore requires at least some level of review.
Did they supply any drawings for this? The last time we had drawings.
We had a building inspector review it also.
Yeah,
We did submit drawings.
Yeah, they've made a submission.
they have.
Yeah.
Emergency service communications is sort of different. But it's not cellular. Those use, we're talking about cellular phone service.
Right.
As opposed to wire. Are adequate for you can reach everybody.
Well, right, but the issue, that's been upgraded, the communications, and the chief could obviously work with it. But what we did originally authorized this because we had problems with cell service in the building. Calling 911, there were certain instances where people were trying to get the call for an emergency, call dispatch, they couldn't get through, or they were getting bumped to the North Fork. So then there was a delay in getting through the dispatch.
I have AT&T. I don't know. Does this improve? I'm just curious. Does this improve the service in the village?
It did.
It did.
It gave me Verizon, it gave me an extra bar walking around the room from 2 to 3, which is not insubstantial. Also, it's worth noting that the Verizon antennas in the cupola are
Or now operating.
they're operating So when this cow went away, I did not notice that the service fell off because I think Google was providing that service. They're still not like, it's still not the same as having a full-on antenna, which actually brings you to a question as to the, we were working on an antenna for the impact yard area.
I can report on that.
Oh, good, that was good.
Yeah, and important safety distinction there, I think, as Tom pointed out, the communication systems in and above the emergency services were fine. But the concern was that citizens rely on a cell phone or able to get the system. And so I keep winding around to my concern that if that's the case, why would you remove it in the face of the storm? That just doesn't make sense. We really know let's go to West Oak, which irritates. So I think if we can put this over, I'll have them in. If the case is big, always convene for the next meeting. I think for the moment, we don't have good information.
Yes, but is it two issues we're trying to address here? One is just improved self-service, and secondly, essential services priority for self-service for access.
Well, it was presented originally as just strengthening bandwidth, giving us more service in the territory. And of course, this episode happens not just advanced, but the highest population season we have the entire year, second. So measuring its effectiveness as a system, we don't know how the difference there are.
Right.
In August, because we were getting, I'm an AT&T as well. And this is service.
There's one spot I can stand in the backyard. And still, which is hard.
You take the
Get your aluminum foil hat on. How long do they want this extension for?
I think it's 6 months.
6 months ago, this is 6 months. Yeah. We can last give them the extension in February. So, but
And by postponing this, are we contributing to people's inability to connect to emergency services?
well, first of all, the load on the system is down considerably since the weekend. But I'll move as quickly as I can. But I don't think we're going to take a new device without some examination. And we've added capacity. With regard to the property down on Sag Pike.
Yeah.
The paperwork for village as property owner in support of their application to the town. That's town, we own this, it's town property. It's village property, but it's in the town up. So we are signing as property owners in support of their application to put a facility there. Consistent with what we approved, I guess.
And it's still the case that we would own the tower. That was part of our discussion.
None of the terms have changed.
Okay, great. Yeah, so
It's whatever
that's in process.
So, so the, invite a motion to put this over till next. Yes, sir.
One question, Bill Sharp. The Harbor Committee had a little discussion about the tower, radio tower. There seems to be some confusion about whether we should vet that first before it comes to you because there are environmental concerns. I'm not clear what new structure is proposed. I heard something about footings, et cetera. If it's a temporary diesel, temporary gas, those impact the environment. Help us out. It's just been rumored, so I don't know.
This is a separate issue.
Which, I'm not
At the
sure.
radio tower, the cell tower.
The radio tower is the subject of a separate application,
Right.
which
Will
is,
require an extensive review by the harbor committee itself.
Okay, so that
Yeah.
will come to us.
Yes,
and that's been submitted.
yes.
Um,
Only a building permit application was submitted and turned down because it requires a special permit from this board, harbor committee approval, very likely variances, et cetera.
This we're talking about the big.
Okay,
It will go
great.
to your board.
Thank you.
Any permanent cellular telecommunications facility will be reviewed by special permit by the village board of trustees. It requires a special use permit from the village board of trustees.
Which is why we're in the cow business. So it's a cellular.
I'll make a motion that we table this until we get more information.
Is there a second? Thank you. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The matter is agreed to. Resolution number 3, to authorize me to sign the municipal advisor services agreement with Unistat. There's a question about that earlier. And that is part of our financial management. Good service. Is there a motion? Second? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's agreed to. A motion on behalf of Breakwater Yacht Club requesting authorization to use a portion of the village property at 45 Bay Street to store boats in the summer and boats in the winter. That's part of a parcel right next to Breakwater Yacht Club nearby to the sewage treatment plant. And we use part of that for storage of our own municipal boats, and also the portion that we let the yacht club. I know that there's been some concern about their maintenance of the facility, so we're speaking to them about keeping an orderly site. And we expect that to be maintained in an orderly way. So the motion is to renew the arrangement that we've had the last couple of years, about $3,000 for the winter season.
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second? I may have misspoken. I don't mean the winter season. I mean, all those in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The matter is agreed to. Next up, authorizing Reed to sign an extension of the contract with the Southampton Quality Improvement Project Funds. That's on my desk. This is part of the water quality. One branch we have in east and another in south, and this is paperwork in support of that. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the matter is agreed to. Richard Doctor of the Whaling Museum requests a special event permit for September 18th, 6 to 8 p.m. for their annual, well, it's an opening reception for a show at the museum. Motion? Second?
Second.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion is agreed to. And number 7, D. Yardley recommends that